Nightmares feel incredibly personal, don't they? They're intimate, private, almost like a secret whispered in the dark, meant only for you. But here's where it gets strange. When researchers, anthropologists, and historians started comparing these private terrors across different cultures, they stumbled upon something deeply unsettling. People separated by vast oceans, different languages, and even entire centuries were describing the exact same nightmares. The same terrifying figures, the same bone-chilling fear, the same helpless paralysis. Tonight, we're going on a journey across the globe to uncover how humanity has tried to make sense of these nighttime terrors long before science had any answers. We'll explore why, despite all the different names and beliefs, the nightmares themselves have remained hauntingly the same. This is part 2 of Decoding Your Nightmares. Let's start our journey in medieval Europe. Here, the terrifying experience we now call sleep paralysis was known as an attack from the Night Hag. People were convinced that an old woman, sometimes a demon, would sit on their chests while they slept, literally stealing their breath. The descriptions from victims are strikingly consistent. A complete inability to move, a crushing pressure on the chest, and the overwhelming feeling of a malevolent presence watching from the shadows. What's incredible is that you can find paintings from the 18th century depicting this exact scene, centuries before modern sleep science could offer an explanation. For the people living then, this wasn't just a bad dream. It was a physical, terrifying assault. They believed a creature was in their room, pinning them down, and their fear was as real as the bed they were lying in. The Night Hag wasn't a product of imagination. She was an accepted reality of the night. Now let's travel east to Japan, where a similar phenomenon is called Kanashibari. The name itself is chilling, translating to bound by metal. Those who experience Kanashibari report many of the same sensations: shadowy figures lingering in the room, disembodied voices whispering just out of earshot, and an unbreakable sense of being physically restrained, as if tied down with invisible chains. Traditionally, Kanashibari was believed to be the work of spirits or ghosts binding a person's body to their bed. What's fascinating is that even in modern Japan, many sufferers describe the figures they see as wearing old-style, traditional clothing. This suggests that while our culture might provide the costume for our demons, it doesn't create the fundamental experience of fear and paralysis. The terror is universal. The details are local. The feeling of being bound is the same, whether by a hag or by spectral metal. Moving across the Pacific, we find echoes of these same stories in North America, among both indigenous and settler communities. The names change, but the core terror remains. There's the old hag, a dark and threatening female presence, much like her European counterpart. And then there's the shadow man, a tall, featureless figure often seen standing in doorways or at the foot of the bed. Modern accounts from people who experience sleep paralysis today describe these figures with remarkable and consistent detail. They talk about a shadowy silhouette standing perfectly still, just watching. Some report the figure moving closer with each terrifying episode, heightening the sense of dread. Whether it's called the old hag, the shadow man, or something else entirely, the experience is the same: a silent, ominous presence that paralyzes you with fear. The names may be different, but the nightmare is universal. Let's head to Southern Africa, where in many communities, sleep paralysis is often attributed to a creature known as the Tokoloshe. This is described as a malevolent, dwarf-like spirit, that is believed to attack people in their sleep. Those who encounter the Tokoloshe describe being pinned down, feeling a heavy weight climb onto their bed, and an intense, overwhelming sense of helplessness and fear. The belief in the Tokoloshe is so strong in some regions that people have traditionally taken practical measures to protect themselves. It's not uncommon to see beds raised up on bricks. The idea is to make the bed too high for the short Tokoloshe to climb onto. This is a powerful example of how culture and belief shape our response to a biological phenomenon. Science can explain the mechanism of sleep paralysis, but it's our beliefs that shape the memory and the folklore that follows. Our journey now takes us to the Middle East, where these night visitations are sometimes attributed to the Jinn. In Islamic tradition, Jinn are supernatural beings made of smokeless fire who are believed to exist in a world parallel to our own. When someone experiences sleep paralysis, they might believe a Jinn is responsible. Victims often describe the classic symptoms: feeling watched, hearing strange voices or whispers, and the unnerving sense of an intelligent presence in the room. This last part is key. The experience doesn't feel random or chaotic like a normal dream. It feels intentional. There's a sense that whatever is in the room with you is aware, intelligent, and possibly malevolent. This feeling of being targeted by a thinking entity is what makes the experience so much harder to shake off and forget. So why are these nightmares so strikingly similar across the entire world? Scientists now believe that the human brain has a limited set of fear templates. Sleep paralysis happens when our brain gets caught in a state between wakefulness and REM sleep. Our body is paralyzed, a normal safety feature to stop us from acting out our dreams, but our mind is partially awake. In this confusing, vulnerable state, the brain tries to make sense of the paralysis and the lingering dream imagery. It defaults to its most primal fears: humanoid shapes, threatening presences, and a total loss of control. Culture then steps in and gives these raw fears a name and a face: a night hag, a shadow man, a Tokoloshe, a Jinn. But the source of the monster is universal. It's the human brain, under stress, creating the same demons it has for millennia. This brings us to an uncomfortable question. Across the world for thousands of years, people have seen different things, but they have felt the same paralyzing fear, the same crushing weight, the same absolute certainty that something was in the room with them. Science can explain the neurological glitch that causes sleep paralysis. Culture explains how we remember and interpret these events. But one question remains. If the mind is just creating these experiences, why do they feel so intensely real? And why have we, as a species, been seeing the same things in the dark for as long as we can remember? Have you ever experienced a nightmare or sleep paralysis that felt culturally familiar or was simply impossible to explain? Share your story in the comments below. You might just discover that you're not as alone in the dark as you think. Thanks for watching,